I would be happy to put Jim on the resolution next month. It's not a problem. Or if somebody wants to do these calculations in 2 seconds, that's fine. But there are requirements by the state, and we are supposed to meet them. And it's not enough to say we know he works that much, because he does, and we all know that. But that's not good enough. That's not appropriate. We're not talking about what we think or what we observe. We have to talk about what we calculate, because that's the way the retirement benefits are done. So
Well,
I would not want to include him in this resolution until we've done the calculations, and we can do another resolution next month for Jim. Or we can have a special meeting and do it tomorrow, if you want to do them tonight.
Well,
But it's not proper to be asked to keep track of something, just like doing your taxes. It's not good enough to say, oh, I earned sort of this much. You know, you can't do that. It has to be justified by calculations.
What calculations were you referring to in July when you said clearly he works a full-time job and his credits would be calculated at 22.5
Because I
days?
was informed at that point that because he worked the same hours as and oversaw the work of his men, that since they were working 8-hour days, he was. And that we had on record in the town clerk's office how many hours the men put in. I have since, in communication with the Office of the State Controller, been told that that is not adequate. It's not adequate that he's overseeing them unless he has to keep a log. And if he writes a log that says, I oversaw my men for from 9 to 4 today, on that certain day, that's his log. It's not enough to have their timesheets.
Mark, it's
not proper.
Does Jim lose anything by doing a resolution for him next month?
His credits are suspended until a resolution is passed.
And then they're reinstated.
Once it's passed, they're
Reinstated.
reinstated.
So
He doesn't lose anything.
He does not
So-
lose anything,
No.
is that correct?
Well, I don't know what they mean by his retirement benefits are suspended.
But if that were the case, then it would be suspended for all the people because we're late in passing the resolution.
No, it's if the resolution goes in without the highway superintendent, his benefits, his and his only, would be suspended.
And they would be reinstated next month.
We can also, like I said, with the
You
Office
just
of the
not-
State Controller
Lose it.
had indicated to Virginia, actually, that the resolution can be submitted with the information we have. But a subsequent resolution would need to be filed to address those whose information was not previously documented. So we can file another resolution next month that gives us the time to review his calendar. And if we feel he's working less than 8 hours a day, we can pass a subsequent resolution. But I think we should just put him on here. We've held this off long enough. And he's just one person in the entire New York State resolution. Also, when we had talked about this months ago, in our box there were 2 sample resolutions. The sample resolutions in 2 different cases, one was typed and one was written, included the highway superintendent, included the town clerk, and included the bookkeeper, all with a standard workday of 8 hours and all with the maximum credits. I have those if you want to see them. Now, this has been going on for 3 or 4 months now.
Yes, it has, and we should have voted on it last month.
Well, we didn't vote on it last month because you had come up with information at the board meeting. Well, you did. You had come up with information at the board meeting that we requested to verify. So that's why we didn't vote on it at the last month.
We all had questions about what this meant. This is a very confusing issue.
Absolutely.
Everyone wanted clarification on this, and therefore we waited on the resolution after finding out that the state would prefer to have us do it correctly rather than rush it through. Therefore, I would prefer to wait on Jim's because he will not lose any credits, and we will be doing it correctly.
The
That's just my opinion.
the establishment of a standard workday is for each position. It is not a standard workday such as, well, in the town of Stanford, everybody who works a full workday, it's 8 hours is a standard workday. That is not what the retirement department is asking for.
No, nobody said that.
All right, the first document you were talking about said everybody had a standard workday. Certainly our highway superintendent, his standard workday is 8 hours. It cannot be more than 8 hours. The bookkeeper works full-time. Her standard workday is 8 hours. However, our town clerk is not a full-time employee. Her standard workday should not be 8 hours. From the Office of the State Controller, there is no generalization with the establishment of a standard workday. You should review what the current daily requirements are for that position. Our town clerk, her requirements are to work from 9 to 1. If the full-time position only requires an employee to work 7 hours a day, the standard workday should be set at 7 hours per day. For part-time employment, if the position does not usually require full-time hours, you may want to consider setting the standard workday at 6 hours. It is obviously up to the discretion of the employer.
So the town
Which is
clerk's workday was established how?
Because she is a part-time employer, she is a part-time employee, her standard workday is clearly not an 8-hour workday for that
Okay,
position.
how was it determined? How did you determine her standard workday?
Well, if you look at her log of activities, you can see she never works 8 hours. But it is also true that the town has defined the town clerk's position as not being 8 hours.
No, I'm just asking how, you're saying you established her standard workday based on the log?
Her standard workday can't be less than 6 hours.
Okay, that's fine. But you're establishing that based on the log.
I'm basing it on the fact that she is a part-time employee and it cannot be less than 6. In fact, the time she is paid for is from 9 to 1 every day. It's a 4-hour day.
All I'm asking is how you determined a 6-hour workday. That's
Because
all.
you can't make a 4-hour workday. You can only make, the least workday you can make is 6.
Why not 7 then and 8?
Because we have not, as a town, defined the town clerk's position as being 7 and 8. We have
Okay.
defined it as being 4 hours.
So
Mark,
then
we've
how do we
gone over
define
this
it?
in the
How did we
past.
define it
Why are we
as,
doing it
how did you
again?
come up with 6 hours?
Because
All I
that's the
wanted to-
least
was
you
based
can
on the
do. Mark,
log?
I can't say this again. It is the least you can say. The state, the Office of the State Controller, their Retirement Benefits Department, say that an employer must set a standard workday
Correct.
between the hours of 6 hours to 8 hours. You cannot make it 4 hours. If you have a part-time employee whose position has been defined by the town
Okay.
as a 4-hour-a-day job, because that is what she is hired to do, 4 hours from 9 to 1,
Okay.
whether she works more hours than that is up to her. She is not paid for those hours that she works.
Mhm.
You cannot define her position as a 4-hour workday because it's not permissible. And so you define a part-time employee as a 6-hour workday. If she were to work 8
About
hours,
6, 7, or 8.
We've had months to look at this. We've gone over the whole thing.
you have had this since, my answers since July 22nd.
My point is what the Office of the State Controller said was that the standard workday should be set according to the hours required for a job. It should be first set without looking at the log or the hours actually worked.
Right.
It should not be backed into. The standard workday is determined by the employer.
Correct.
Okay, so
And we
what
have
I'm
to-
asking you is you
Yeah.
determined it based on 6 hours,
No.
not 7 or 8.
No.
You're saying it's
No.
it's
No,
6.
Mark. Our town clerk